So it's a little after 4, and what we thought we would do with this precious time, having received so many questions through the day and these comments now, is to maybe invoke the spiral here and go around and see, yes, Steve, if we have anything to offer, and silence is always welcome. And we can even, once we pass this mic, we could even change up the direction of it if we wanted to. It has a lot of power. But I'm going to start it with you, and then maybe we come around and see if it changes or not, but at least give all the people who have offered so much today already a chance not to have the last word, but to have some more words after being inspired by all of this. Yeah.
I have yet to get over to the art installation in the church space. And I've really been thinking about what my one word is related to pilgrimage, and I want to share it with you. It's the word returning. And I can't explain it, and I don't know why, but it has come to me in the past 24 hours. That word keeps kind of working me. And as has been shared, that word is gonna have some power, and I think it's gonna have some meaning to me. And I might not know it right now, but I look forward to understanding it and living into it. And thank you for witnessing my word and for being here.
I think I'm going to pass for a minute. I just wanted to express my gratitude for everybody here and for all the energy that you brought to the room and to everybody up here and just to the land in general. I feel like this is a very special place in the world for that reason, that you all are, woke, like awake to a lot of different issues that are happening around the world and are privy to some of those things as compared to other places in the United States. And it gives me a lot of hope, and it makes me feel like we have a lot of allies, and that, it crosses cultural boundaries, and that room to bridge all of our differences, is possible. So thank you for that inspiration.
We make films to kind of stir people up, and I can sense there's a lot of people stirred up here, and after films people always ask, well, what can I do? And the best answer I've ever come up with is work under the leadership of local indigenous people to protect or restore a sacred place where you are. And whether it's Kuliloklo here, the rebuilding of the roundhouse, or protecting and building a park for the West Berkeley Shell Mound site, or helping the Winnemem stop the raising of Shasta Dam and restore the salmon, there's many things that we all can do. So it's all a pilgrimage, and it's all a prayer, and it's a lot to do. So hope we can all work together on all those things. And thanks for being here and all your attention today. It's been very special.
I just want to thank you for your comment about pilgrimage being returning. And I also want to thank you for your comment about teachers. I was just reflecting on how when we return to ourselves, we are returning to the land. And I also just wanted to reflect on how when we listen to more than just human beings, how we're getting the correct teachings. And I am just thankful for all the teachings that I have, both from the earth, from my ancestors, and the wisdom that continues to be shared, and something that I really just want to put forth is Chief Colleen. She always says, I believe in the good things coming. And, you know, that was the first thing that came up for me being in this room, was just the incredible amount of hope that I have for the ability to transform spaces. A lot of the times with cultural misunderstandings, you know, this just stems from those walls being up. And so I'm just so thankful that in this space that we are all really taking the time to listen to our stories, and you know, through this process we're breaking down those walls. So thank you for returning with us to the center.
One response maybe to you is that we'll be walking again on March 31st, so you're very welcome to sign up. It's going to be a beautiful walk, and we'll be holding the whole theme of pilgrimage and really doing it as well, so you're welcome. Just a couple of thoughts in a way that came from some of the thoughts and questions now. There's the thing around homecoming. There's something for me when on pilgrimage, every day I'm coming home. It's almost like every minute I'm coming home, because there's a part where I feel I begin to become in relationship to, right? And so every moment I'm home. And then in the next step, I'm home again. And so there's this, it's a much deeper kind of process of becoming, and also connecting to where we are. And that's, often for me, it's something I can't even explain, but you know, it's an embodied feeling. And then just on a very literal, you know, as you're walking and you've walked through the heat and the dust, and you've gone on for like 15 miles, which sometimes wouldn't seem so long if you didn't have your backpack on, and all that kind of stuff. And then you see the base camp, like just over there, and it's like, wow, that's home. Part of like what we've often done is we do carry everything, and part of that is to try and get into this feeling that we don't need anything, right? So many times we've started a pilgrimage and people come with huge bags that they can hardly even lift up, you know, the tortoise thing, like that, and you just know that within 10 minutes they're going to want to take at least half of that bag out. And that experience is just like, I don't need as much as I think I do all the time, right? And that also gives us a clearer path to home and like that rest. And then that question around motion, if we're not, you know, it's like, I think one of the questions over here was that young people, is it okay that we're still moving around, or should we be more grounded or staying still? For me, the aspect of pilgrimage is that we're all moving right now, right? The earth is going round, right? We're moving inside. Our hearts are still beating, I hope. You know, when we're in constant movement. I think the aspect of pilgrimage is understanding that. And being in movement which is connected, and it's in integrity to the world and the life around us. Yeah.
Wow. I just feel incredibly humbled to be up here with this company.
Thank you for the opportunity to share space and stories. And I remember the first thing I wrote during the writing exercise was, there are so many ways to embody pilgrimage, to walk pilgrimage, to live pilgrimage. So many ways. And each story and each one of you, I want to learn, I want to lean forward, I want to participate. So thank you, really. I'm completely overwhelmed and feel very humbled. And there's many different things that are coming up for me in listening to the questions and to remembering also my experiences in pilgrimage with walking water. And a story that I wanted to share from that time, which is connected to something that I feel I'm learning, and I also hear we're learning about pilgrimage, and particularly why is this conversation happening now? Like, what is it about these particular times that are asking us to really take on this practice? And thinking about how what we're walking towards in terms of our future collectively is so uncertain, and that there's a way that we don't know, and it's so much more comforting and hopeful to not know together, and to move and to be in movement rather than stagnancy in that uncertainty. And yeah, for me, that pilgrimage, or at least walking water, in my experience, provided and provides a container to embody new possibilities that possibly are like as a prayer, to plant a new possibility into the world that maybe can grow to exist on a much wider scale. And one of the days we walked to a place in LA called the Audubon Center at Debs Park, and it's a really beautiful place of a Latino community really reclaiming connection to land, and they've built a LEED certified building, and the rebar of that building is made out of melted handguns that have been bought back from the streets of that community. And we stayed there, and that evening we had a conversation, and dances from the Paiute came down, and there was a meeting of the Tongva and the Paiute people. And Alan, whose name was brought in as the Paiute, who was on the core team of Walking Water, he had been carrying this mug with him on that part of the journey, and he was like, yeah, I don't really know why I brought this, but he just had it, and suddenly here he was in the presence of the Tongva, who are the first peoples of the land of where Los Angeles is built. And he just, in this moment of coming together, he poured water that he had from Payahunadu, from his homeland, into this mug, and he gifted it to the Tongva. And this was such a strong moment for me, because it, in a story where the water has been taken so forcibly and without permission and without connection, for that water to actually be gifted in that same direction with care and with love was, in that moment for me, a real embodiment of another possibility, that there can be relationship, reciprocal, generative relationship between Payahunadu and Los Angeles. And that for me was just it. Really captured the spirit that I felt planted a seed of what is possible now.
Oh. I'm following Toby. Toby had talked about after the film, a lot of people ask, what can I do? What should I do? How can I make a difference? And I asked the same question. And you know, there's that shoe company, and they have a motto. And they say it's, I'm not even going to say it yet. The shoe company has a motto. Whatever it is that you feel inside and you say, boy, you know, I wonder if I could do that. That's what I want to do. I want to do that, but oh no, wait a minute, that's crazy. No, I can't do that. And you come up with all kinds of reasons why you can't make that move, that first step on that journey that is going to take you somewhere where we don't even know. We don't know where it's going to take us. And when you make that step, like, I'm going to take that first step, yeah, and the second step, and the third, oh my God, what am I doing? You might have to turn this way and turn that way and, you know, go all different kinds of ways that you never thought you would ever go. But each step, each way you turn, each way you go is your way. It might not look like how we do our pilgrimage. It might look like something entirely different. That's who you are. That's your path. So whenever you have that feeling that there's something happening in the world, that there's something happening in your world, that you want to go on the journey, that you want to make the difference, then what's the motto that you come from? Yeah, just do it. Just do it. Just do it. And we'll all be with you. Even if we say, oh, you're crazy, we're still going to be with you. Even if we say, you can't do that, we're still going to be with you. In fact, if we say, you can't do that, it's kind of a test to see if you really mean what you say. If you really are going to do that. If we say that's crazy, it's a kind of a test. Because we're going to be with you all the way. So just do it.
I gotta follow John again. I'm thinking about pilgrimage on a horizontal axis through which we move through time and space. And I'm thinking about pilgrimage on a vertical axis through which we move outside of time and space in these vertical dimensions of soul and spirit and ancestry and descendants. And there's a nexus point between the two, a meeting point between the two that is deep, somatic, heart-centered listening. And sometimes that listening can extend us out as we listen through the body, through our footsteps and through movement. And sometimes that listening, that deep, centered listening can drop us into the vertical through meditation, through prayer, through creative art and reflective dialogue. These are all pilgrimages that can evoke both the voices of our ancestors and the voices of our descendants into the space to create those possibilities for new imaginings and for new becomings and for new ways of being in relationship to each other in the world and the numinous place. And pilgrimage is not also, not there's a deep invitation in pilgrimage to go to the wounded spaces. When I first moved to Brooklyn, I was suffering, and 2 blocks from my apartment, the closest piece of nature outside of the concrete and the wood in my apartment I could find was the Gowanus Canal, a Superfund site, one of the most polluted bodies of water in America. And that was my sanctuary. And I would go down to the Gowanus, and I would leave some flowers there by the shore right next to the Lowe's parking lot where all the runoff dumps into the Gowanus. And sometimes I'd leave tobacco there, and I would listen to the Gowanus. And when my son was born, I would take him down to the Gowanus, and we would sit down, just be with the Gowanus. And out of that listening to the Gowanus came this idea to start to think about rights of nature for New York City. And so listening isn't passive. Listening turns into action. And listening in prayerful, heart-centered ways ultimately unfolds into action in the world too. So they're connected.
So the question earlier about DWP and where they are now continues to echo and brings me back to a moment when we were in a gathering helping to raise more funds for Walking Water. And someone asked, well, what do you expect to happen? What are you really doing? So I want to speak not only about just doing. After it's done, part of the practice is to believe and to have faith that whether we are met with the visible, that we know that there are invisible forces with us. And so for those human beings who, wear the name tag from DWP, I have faith that there are ripples that we know and we don't know in those human destinies. And how do I walk absorbing the differences and walking with no enemy mind? That we are one in this journey, whatever it looks like. And the just do it continues and continues, whether we know it or not. Thank you.
I'm thinking of some words from Ralph Waldo Emerson. And he says, there's a power in love to divine another's destiny better than that other can. And with heroic encouragement, hold him to his task. He goes further to say that we are not just like workmen and work people in the world. We are carriers of another age. And he points to the idea of prophecy. And in many cultures, there are prophecies that precedes culture, meaning that they're prepared by other levels of intelligences within our solar system, within our astronomical systems, that reaches the Earth through electromagnetism, through another kind of preparation that eventually becomes our dreams, eventually becomes our minds, and eventually becomes our willingness to agree on what could move from possibility to probability to actuality. In this prophetic realm, there are potentials, far more complex but far more elegant in its approximation to what this earth needs. If we could just agree that the culture that we're trying to transform isn't sufficient yet to bring prophecies into fulfillment. Human beings have to become more engaged with these other layers of becomings if we're to bring another age, not just another change, but another age into this earth ecology. This earth is so powerfully attracting things greater than what we can completely now imagine. But without these other elements that human beings must be able to give, not just language to things, but a certain kind of love for things that are far beyond our capacity to create without accepting prophetic wisdom. Dr. King stood in Memphis and spoke about seeing this vision from the mountaintop. That's what he was referring to. Another kind of belonging. And he died the next day. It was a declaration for him to say, if I'm going to see some things about the future, there's a risk in it as well. Some people don't come back if they're going to tell us what the next world can look like. This is this vertical pilgrimage. There's a risk in seeing too much before we're prepared to do it. So I hear to just do it. But I hear the caution of those who have done it from the other side of life now to say, we have to love things as if we're willing to sacrifice the complete surrender of our lives for it. Because this is not an easy world to just change. Human life is about life, it's about love, and it's about relationships, as we were all saying. That in order to bring something more, and I heard these great teachers saying about what prophecies might mean if we, as a global culture, could choose to bring it into our world. And it's been prepared by a lot of great teachers to say how to just do it. And I hope that we will really take that challenge to utilize the collective intelligence of those who have crossed over to the spiritual world from here, and to trust the unborn, that they will bring what we would need to survive another day.
Side of you. Weston gave me a new t-shirt. I'm just going to put it on right now. It's the joy, actually, of that the one who came before is a tough act to follow. What joy there is in that, actually. I celebrate speechlessness. And there is still time for me to capture a few things and let them go, and also to have some moments for what's next, and maybe to return to song some of the ways we began. I'm over here with this man somewhere that brought back a story, a statement at least, that I found myself with in the night about pilgrimage that is forced. You know, who has choice, who has no choice? And what came to me sitting here was the power of our perception. Particularly, what came to me was an ex-warden and an ex-felon who I was blessed to sit with and seed a counsel program of sorts, a mentoring program of sorts within prisons. And as we were meeting with people in Tehachapi prison, the idea of pilgrimage came. You know, what if we were able to support people to actually reframe and see going into prison and coming out of prison to be welcomed by a community, to have a place to share story, to have a place to hear story. And for those that don't come out, to know that now there is a beautiful, in many places, inner circle of mentorship. So that journey inside of prison, where people seemingly can't move, there is movement. And I can say that I have been witness to some of the greatest suffering amongst people who are seen to be free, wealthy people who are seen to be able to have so many choices to go and fly everywhere. And yet there is a deep missing and longing for home here. So I continue to walk with the question of where are we to be? What is ours to do? What needs healing? What's our part in being quiet or being outrageous? Yeah. It is a blessing to be in a group of people that are deeply attentive in the way that people have been here today. I have to say, that is far from a common experience. And my prayer would be that it becomes more common. Because what we give our attention to, in my experience, will grow. So I thank you for nourishing us today. And I imagine nourishing each other with the attention that has been gifted. I want to offer this mic to anyone else that might have any closing comment to say before we move to find our closing way. As a younger of mine says, our clopening. We're going to find a clopening. And I see Steve looking at me. I actually don't see him, I feel him.
It happens every time. This moment, over these last 9 Geography of Hopes, in which I feel so full of gratitude, full of relief. It was only 8 months ago in which a group of friends and neighbors walked the Lagunitas watershed with Kate and Scott and Sky. And it was at that moment when we were at the camp, the drone camp at the Samuel P. Taylor, in which, come on, I had this conversation with Kate about what does it mean to be on pilgrimage. And the power of being near that water, in that watershed, sparked a light that resulted in this weekend. And I'm so deeply grateful that you all showed up and that we had this pilgrimage together, and that these storytellers touched us, changed us, help us reimagine what pilgrimage is, taking that step by step forward.